The Special Olympics will be funded. I just told my people I want to fund the Special Olympics. I have overridden my people. We're funding the Special Olympics.
Funding the Special Olympics to the tune of $18 million. That was not the administration's position. In fact, just hours before President Trump said he'd overridden his people, as he did, one of them, the president's Secretary of Education, was taken to task by lawmakers for eliminating funding for the Special Olympics. Tim and Maria Shriver, whose mother Eunice founded the Special Olympics, responded this way.
I just want to thank all of you who advocated, who lobbied, Republicans and Democrats, old and young.
I want to thank the president for responding to your voices. That's how democracy is supposed to work. And guess what? It worked.
Well, the Secretary of Education out with a statement of her own on the about face. Quote, I am pleased and grateful the president and I see eye to eye on this issue and that he has decided to fund our Special Olympics grant. This is funding I have fought for behind the scenes over the last several years. News to me, Joel Payne, from watching the hearing as I did. That was not what she was saying. You know, she said she didn't put that line item in, cross out that line item herself, but she did say cuts have to be hard sometimes.
I mean, this whole thing is a joke. Look, I worked for Barbara Lee, very proud to have worked for Barbara Lee. And what she told me when on the first day there was around the time the budget was coming out, she said, a budget is a moral document. It says who you are. It reflects what you believe in. This White House, this president does not believe in looking after people who can't look after themselves. It's not their value. They don't care about it. You've seen it time and time again. We were just talking about the border. He idolizes Andrew Jackson. There's his own personal trail of tears going on at the southern border right now. This thing with the Special Olympics, picking on people who actually can't fight for themselves. And it was no accident. I don't think this was a staff error. I know we were just talking about that in the break. I think this is a very deliberate attempt by people like Mick Mulvaney, people in that building who have been empowered to go amok because there is no control in that building.
And the timing's important, too, because I think if you didn't get this bar summary that you got on Sunday, you would not have gotten the Kirstjen Nielsen letter, and you would not have gotten this that happened 100%. To Special Olympics. And because he felt emboldened and empowered by what happened with courtesy of his AG to be able to come out and do these things.
Let me turn to the former City Council Speaker here on the issue of parliamentary procedure. You have the president talking about his people making this call. You know, in the background to all of these conversations, we're talking about what's happening on the Hill with healthcare, is this ignorance about the way appropriations works, about the way the White House, the executive branch, is supposed to work with the legislative branch. You see that once again here. Yes, it's a moral document, but the president thinks that he can flip a switch and make it one way or another.
Well, he also, I told my people to change the budget. It's your budget.
Yes.
I mean, I know it's different in Washington, of course, but when the mayor of the city of New York releases the budget, he or she presents it to the New York City Council as their document. So, you know, I know it's not a lot of money in the scheme of the budget, but it's a huge amount of money to the Special Olympics and just the message. So how did he not know? How did he not know? It's as if he doesn't care to know. He just doesn't care to know.
So that belies 2 points. One, it's not a huge amount of money, which means that's a message you're sending. That's a rounding error. That you lose that money in a half a day in processing in the government. $18 million, that's nothing. That's a message you're sending about what your values are. Secondly, I can tell you, as someone who used to work on the Hill, nobody cares about what's in that president's budget. Everybody cares about what's coming out of the key committees on the House and on the Senate side. And I can guarantee you Nancy Pelosi was never going to sign a bill that was going to cut Special Olympics. In fact, she'll probably double it.
But you know what I just want to add is the president seems to revel in causing anxiety for people in need. Whether it's Special Olympics participants, whether it's their families, people who need the Affordable Care Act to stay alive, literally. It's like he leans back in some chair and twists, you know, a handlebar mustache and says, oh, the little people are scurrying about afraid. It's sick.
Tim, I want to ask you about the larger issue at play here. This is a pretty thin cabinet at this point, for all the emphasis this administration played at first about how big the cabinet was, how diverse it was, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's pretty thin. It's been pretty eviscerated at this point. You have particular insight into how this president staffs, how he regards his staff. Yes, we played that clip of Betsy DeVos talking to Mike Allen there before we went to break. She likes the job most days. How could anybody work for a president who could do an about-face like that as quickly as he did?
Well, I assume the people who go to work for him are either doing it because they want to get their resumes stamped, or because they think that by attaching their wagon to his star, they'll be further down the road at some point. But the fact of the matter is, all they need to do is look at his history. He's a solo pilot. The Trump Organization is not a Fortune 500 corporation. It's a boutique mom and pop operation. It has maybe 24 people working there. The only companies of size he ever ran is casino company. He ran it into the ground multiple times. He was never a good bureaucratic manager. He ran a marketing and licensing operation that essentially turned him into a human shingle.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.